Hey, what's up, Coach? How are you, bud?
What's going on, Eric?
I've missed you, man. I've
You
missed
know,
you.
let me clean this. Let me clean this a little bit here. There we go.
You look good, man. You look good.
It's the camera. It's not me. That's why I keep cleaning it.
Well, there you go. Maybe I should do that. If I do that, will I look handsome too?
I think you will, but you don't need to because you look perfectly clear to me.
All right, good deal, man. Good
Yeah.
deal. Cool.
So
All right, well, let's get rocking here, buddy. How have you been?
you've been good, man. It's good to see you. I
Right?
just been seeing pictures of you out on the roads and on the beach and on the trails and like all these amazingly taken photos. And I'm
Right.
like,
Everybody asks me who my photographer is, and I have to tell them it's just a timer on my iPhone and a tree branch or a fire hydrant or
well,
whatever.
I got you're taking some epic photos, and it looks like there's more than just one person involved. Like there's somewhere you are off in the distance, and it's like you're on the beach, and the camera's like 100 feet away. It's like he's got to have some cameraman following him.
No cameraman, just a well placed tree branch,
Nice.
and then I
You're
gotta
getting
run back. It's kind of a hat. Like if you were to watch me do this setup,
uh, uh,
it looks ridiculous. I'm setting up a phone on a branch. It's falling over. I'm trying to get it back up. Then I run like 100 meters, and I gotta turn around, and go back, get my phone. It's ridiculous.
so there are many takes of this. Like
Oh yeah, totally.
okay,
There's
you should.
takes. I've had a bunch where the phone just falls out of the tree, and then I gotta go back and set it up. It's a whole thing, man. It's a whole
So
thing.
can we get Christine to record the bloopers, like just
That would be good.
so we can see like the behind the scenes.
Maybe next time. Next time we go out for a little family run time, we'll get a
Nice,
blooper reel going.
nice.
Um, all right, Coach. I got questions for you, my friend.
Yeah.
So we've known each other for a while now. We work together at the store. The
Yep.
reason we hired you was because you've had such a cool running story. Um, and you have a lot of experience coaching many different levels of athletes. So why don't you just tell us your origin story, kind of where you came from, why you got into this running thing, and why coaching became your calling.
Yeah, sure. So that's a great question. That's a great place to start. I so my a little bit of background on me. I was born. Many of you might already know this, but I was born. Hey, Mary. I was born in Kenya, and so I was born in Kenya, and I lived in Kenya throughout my childhood. I moved here when I was 13, so the majority of my elementary school years were in Kenya. But we did spend a brief stint in Minnesota. So when I was 8, my dad moved us to Minnesota for a couple of years, and we lived there while he was teaching at the University of Minnesota.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Kenya
Yeah.
to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Very, very different in many, many aspects.
Yeah.
How did you handle going from Kenya to Minnesota, like culture-wise, climate-wise, the whole nine? Must have been crazy.
It was a big leap for sure. And I remember being a kid and just sort of accepting it. But it was a big jump because the climate is very different. The climate is very different. And so we moved to Minnesota in January. And so in January, it's summer in Kenya and it's winter in Minnesota.
Yeah, that's rough.
And it was also the first time I'd ever seen winter because we don't really have seasons back home.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it was a big transition for me. I think it helped that I was sort of a young, naive little boy coming over here, and it was also America, and we sort of idolized America, and so we didn't really care what the weather was like or what the food was like or what we just had these images of Michael Jordan,
Right.
Just like the American ideal. So we moved to Minnesota, and it had just snowed like 6 inches, overnight. Got there, and immediately we had to like drive through the snow. We went to live with a friend of my dad's, and they had just plowed their driveway, but the snow was still on the banks, and it was still on the garage door. And I remember grabbing an icicle off of the garage, and because this thing was like just coming down in a little sharp little thing, and I grabbed and I immediately dropped it, and I said, "What is that?" And they all started laughing. They said, "It's called ice." So.
Jeez Louise, that must have been brutal, man.
Yeah.
That must have been the first time you saw snow ever.
Yeah, first time ever. I was 8. I just turned 8. I turned 8 on I had my birthday on the airplane ride over to Minneapolis to Minnesota, and so they sang happy birthday for me. And so right after my 8th birthday is when I was introduced to the weather. So yeah, it was big. And then 2 years after that, so that was just like a short little stay in Minneapolis. Minnesota. We moved back to Kenya when I was 10, and we lived in Kenya until I was 13. And so we went again from like Minnesota cold to Kenya warm. Jeez. And it was another transition because I was just starting to get used to the seasons.
Right.
We moved in September, so it was just getting cold here. I guess we avoided that winter, but we moved right before Kenyan summer, so we're right on the equator. Right. Another big transition. Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been nuts, man. But then you came back, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know how. Experiencing snow for the first time. I don't know how I even came back, but again, we're just like kids who were naive and didn't really complain about much. We sort of just went with the flow.
Go with the flow.
We're going back to America. Fine, we'll go back to America.
whatever you want me to do.
Yeah, whatever you want us to do. But that was an easier transition because by then I was a little bit older. I had experienced America for the first time. I was actually more excited because I had started to adopt some of the American culture, especially sports culture. So I was following a lot of athletes, basketball and football athletes, mainly basketball, because that's what we had exposure to. We knew the names, we knew Michael Jordan, we knew Magic Johnson, and so moving back here and getting a chance to be in their country and watch them was pretty exciting. So the second time around, I was actually, it happened kind of at the last minute. We didn't really, it wasn't a planned trip, but we were excited to go. And I remember my schoolmates were super jealous because they were just getting ready for their what would be like their SATs. And so right before that happened, I just took off.
You're like, forget the tests, I'm out of here.
So I think for the remainder of that year, they kept writing me and saying, you got lucky there.
Right.
You didn't have to take this massive exam, which basically determines where you go to high school. So that's we in order for us to go to high school, we'd have to take an entrance exam, and then the scores would determine how good the school was that you went to.
Interesting.
You didn't really get to choose; they for you.
Like a placement test kind of deal.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Interesting. Now, when you came back that second time, is that when you kind of started the running game? Was it immediate? Yeah. Did you join the cross country team or?
Yeah, that's exactly when it happened, Eric. I was doing a little bit of track and field back home as a kid, but my main sport was soccer. That's what that's what we all played. And so any chance I got, I would be on the soccer pitch. We called it football. Be on the
Yeah.
football pitch. And I played that any chance I got. I'd sometimes, like, after school, I'd go play, and then I'd get home late, get in trouble. But like, I just loved it that much. And then so when I moved here, but I did some track and field, but it was mainly like, let's get these kids out on the track and just see what they enjoy. So I think I ran a little bit, I jumped a little bit. The track was super nice, the surface, so we weren't doing anything like serious.
Right.
We were just kind of running around and getting used to it. But when I came to high school, when I moved here and then joined the high school, local high school, I was immediately approached about joining the track and field team. And they're like, "You're from Kenya."
Was that like one of those deals where it was like, we got this new Kenyan kid, we got to get him on the track team?
Yeah, the coaches were aware, and so they sort of like gave me subtle little hints that,
nudges.
When the spring comes, and maybe even now, instead of playing soccer, but I love the sport too much. So I played soccer throughout high school years. A forward and a midfielder and a forward and a striker.
Yeah.
And in the winter, I love basketball, Eric.
Oh, like, sure. Yeah, I mean, you're a Michael Jordan fan.
Yeah, I just loved everything about his game. I just liked how creative he was and how intense. I think it was the intensity I really.
Did you watch that documentary? You must.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
See, I haven't seen it, so don't spoil it for me. But I know he is like the ultimate competitor.
Yeah, and I still see myself like that. Just like a toned down version, obviously. But I loved the way he played, and so as soon as I could dribble a ball, first time I played basketball was here. As soon as I figured out where to go and how to dribble, I started pretending I was him. And I loved it, and so basketball was a really I was really excited about it, and so I went out for the basketball team. But I was also 4'5" or 4'8".
Yeah, that doesn't translate all that well to the court. I know that from experience, Coach.
Do you really?
I do. I used to try to play basketball too. There was a certain age I got to where it was just it didn't work out.
It didn't quite work out with because they didn't do it based on height.
Right.
It wasn't like you're playing against other 4'5" boys.
Now, if that were the case, both of us.
Yeah, we'd be professionals by now.
Right. Obviously.
So I didn't make the team, and then I found myself like looking into the wrestling program because some of my friends were also going to try out, and so I tried out. Wasn't really a tryout. It was more like, okay, you're on the team.
Right.
Ended up wrestling for basically my high school career, and pretty well. I did pretty well there. I was a senior year. I was state runner-up in Rhode Island, and then in the spring, I joined the track team, and that's where my love for running began. Was that freshman year, spring track, and so the coaches got their wish. The Kenyan boy joined the team.
Jesus, that's
ridiculous. And they put me in a bunch of different events. I ended up focusing all my efforts on the half mile, but I did do like the 15. I did I believe I ran the 3K, and they tried me in some jumping events too, because I was just a pretty good athlete, so they figured I could do some field events. But I ended up focusing on the half mile. That's
cool.
Like my real. I found my calling there. I enjoyed that sport more than any other sport in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, Jay Runner here has a quick question. Where do you do most of your training now? Where are you at?
Jay Runner. I know that guy.
Yeah, you do.
So should we, do you want me to continue on my...
Yeah, keep going. I'll keep that question later.
Okay. So, Jay, we'll get to you in a minute. So then senior year high school, I was doing pretty well in track and field too. I was top two there in the state. I was top two in wrestling in the state, and so I had to make a decision about what to do in college. And I ended up contacting coaches all over about both sports, and got most of my responses came from the wrestling coaches, and so that had a lot to do with what I did in college. When I got to Brown, I was in touch with both, but I'd already heard from the wrestling coach, and he seemed pretty excited. He knew my high school coach. There was like a little coaching circle that he was a part of, and so before I could do any sort of track and field or cross country training, I found myself on the wrestling team, and it was pretty intense. It was a D1 program. I'm not sure if you're still there, but it was a D1 program, and so we competed against like all the D1 great D1 teams, like Michigan.
That was intense.
Yeah. So I did that, but there was a lot of running in soccer, and there's a lot of running in wrestling, and so I've always been running.
Right.
I've always been running, and I never really got too far away from it, even when I wasn't on a team in college.
I noticed too, like a lot of my friends who played soccer will make that transition to running at some point. Whether it's like when they graduate from high school and they don't want to play in college, they'll just start running, or kind of like what happened to you, a track coach will see this really good soccer player on the pitch and then try to convince him to run track or her to run track. So it makes sense. Yeah.
It was an easy thing for me to keep doing, and it helped my other sports. It wasn't punishment for me, like some of the athletes I work with who say, "Oh, I didn't run because it was just like punishment." Right. I ran because it got me in better shape for my other sports, especially wrestling with all the conditioning.
Oh yeah.
And so after college, I wasn't like on a trajectory to run semi-pro or professionally or anything like that because I hadn't really done it at the collegiate level. So I just kind of continued on my own. I didn't really have a coach. I knew I wanted to set some goals and run a half and run some 5Ks and run a half.
Right.
But I wasn't super serious. I was just getting going as a young professional. Like my focus was on my career, but I kept running. I ran the Cox half marathon. I believe it was like the first or second one that they did. I ran a bunch of 5Ks, and then I moved out to New York to start working. So before I moved out there, I'd already done some road races.
Cool. Yeah. Now at that point, were you using running more as just like a stress relief, meditation type thing, or were you like, I want to hit this time, setting goals and like really getting after it?
No, running for me at that point was just for health, was just to maintain my health. And I didn't have any time goals. I wanted to say I had done a half, and I wanted to say I'd done some 5Ks, and I'd tried the 10K distance to see what that felt like. So it was mainly just running to maintain my fitness, and for health reasons.
Cool. And now I know, like from just knowing you, that in New York, I think the running coaching thing really kind of came together for you. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you could write my autobiography, Eric. You know me that.
I might, man. Might. With your permission.
You don't need permission. So New York City. I was there for about 6 years, and the first couple of years I don't believe I was running much. I was just having this crazy work schedule, and just trying to survive. And then by my fourth year, I worked at the New York Fed, Federal Reserve Bank of New York. By my fourth year, I was starting to feel like I missed the sport. It was already a part of me at that point, and I was doing it at that point. I wasn't even racing. I was just running like once or twice a week whenever I could. I was probably like a weekend warrior,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And but I missed competing. I missed competing, and
Yeah.
so I started. I met a few people who knew about the New York road racing scene, the New York road runner scene, and
Hmm.
they had told me like they were putting on like a 5K, and it was actually a corporate challenge. So it was more like a 3.8 or something, some weird distance.
Yeah.
And because our company was going to be in that corporate challenge, I decided, okay, this might be a good chance for me to get back into some racing.
Yeah.
So so I joined the team, the Feds team. It was awful. It was like the first time running in Central Park. I'd never run in Central Park.
I
Like
hear it's awful.
the hills ate me up. I remember thinking that was only 4 miles. But then I kept going, and I found myself just wanting to run more,
Yeah.
and it just came back to me, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
Now.
and then I did a bunch of New York Roadrunner races,
Hmm.
and I did enough to guarantee myself into the New York City Marathon. Um, part
Sweet.
of the part of those road races were they were like there were half marathons in there, so I was able to progress up in
Mhm.
distance. And I qualified for New York. You had to run like 9 races and then volunteer, and you'd be guaranteed into the marathon. So I did that. Um, and then the marathon, that was the marathon that was canceled because of Hurricane Sandy.
Oh, yeah, that figures. Jeez.
So yeah, yeah, uh, it was canceled, and so I never did it, and I never did New York City, and but I kept running the shorter races. I went back and I did some of the shorter stuff, and I was getting faster, and so I just liked where I was. I
Hmm.
didn't really wasn't concerned about the marathon so much.
Right.
Uh, but then a year later, that's when I joined Nike Running,
Hmm.
and through Nike Running, I discovered USATF. So
Yep.
like it just goes to show, like throughout high school and college, I didn't really know much about USATF. You know, I didn't know they had a coaching program. I didn't know you could be a coach. But through
Right.
Nike, because it was all around me at that point, I was working for Nike Running. Running was everywhere.
Hmm.
I learned about the USATF thing, and I had a coach at that time, and I saw what he was doing with me, and I thought I can do this. Like,
Yeah.
why not, right?
Right.
And so I went and got my USATF certification while I was still with Nike Running,
Hmm.
and uh, and then started taking on some local track and field athletes.
Sweet.
Yeah, yeah,
And so, just a silly question.
yeah.
Do, do you prefer telling people what to do or being told what to do? Like, are you more of a kind of like super coachable athlete, or would you prefer to be telling that super coachable athlete what to do?
Oh, boy, that's a good question. You know, I as having a coach who was looking, you know, was looking after you and your health, and was looking was thoughtfully putting together your training plan,
Mm-hmm.
and was sort of mindful of what you needed to do. Took some of the pressure off.
Mm-hmm.
It took some of like the so the work off of your shoulders. And so I appreciated having someone to just tell me what I should be doing. I
Right.
appreciated it. I That's an important distinction. I appreciated it.
Yeah. Well, it looks like one of your athletes maybe answered the question for you.
uh, but I can't say I liked it.
Right. I hear you.
So I think if I was to answer that question completely honestly, I would say I prefer to tell people what to do.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. See, I'm kind
Uh,
of I'm the opposite, man. I'm like, I just want to be told what to do.
really?
Like, yeah, like I have like I've run my whole life, but I really have now that I'm out of college and high school, I have a tough time getting motivated. So I need somebody to tell me what to do. You know,
I can to do it.
you can. Yeah, you love doing that.
Yeah, I know I'm coachable, and I know I can follow. I can follow directions. I know that because I had to coach for a couple of years, but you know, I really would rather be on the telling side, telling you to do. It's not even like a power trip or anything. I just feel like I know what I want people to do, and I just want them to do it.
Right. Now, now, how do you feel when they don't do that?
I don't feel good at all.
No. Oh goodness. So, with in that kind of same vein, do you prefer coaching like a one-on-one situation, or would you rather have like a group? I know you coach in multiple, like you'll coach a high school team, but you'll also have athletes that you coach. Do you prefer one, or are they both like kind of cool in their own respects? What do you think?
Yeah, well, the high school age is an interesting one because they're so new. A lot of them are so new to the sport,
Yeah.
and so they're just like raw, and they can be molded. You can mold them into sort of like representations of your coaching philosophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can direct them. So it's an interesting group to work with. I've worked with the high school age on the cross country level and also on the track and field level.
Yep.
And I just find that they are very moldable and very impressionable. So if they're with the right coach, they can do really well.
Yeah.
The thing I enjoy the most is working on an individual level with people. So being able to work one on one, even with a larger group, being able to sort of single people out and have some impact on their development.
Yeah.
Have something to have an impact on their outcomes. So if a group allows me to do that, if a larger group allows me to do that, then I have a lot of fun. If it's a group where you don't have that personal connection with individuals on an individual level, I don't enjoy it as much. Which is why I really like the personal coaching that I do, because it gives me an opportunity to work one on one with people.
Yeah.
So I would say I don't really have a preference as long as I'm able to have that one-on-one connection.
Right. Gotcha.
But in this past winter, I was able to do that at Bayview because they had a pretty small indoor track team. There were there were 5 girls on the distance team, and I was the distance coach. And so that was almost like working one-on-one with all of them.
Right.
And I think they did really well because of that. I find like I don't enjoy just putting together a plan, one general plan, and not being able to tweak it to accommodate different athletes, because everyone needs something different.
Yeah, and they'll need something different throughout the training plan that you write.
Exactly, throughout the training plan. And they're all also at different levels of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to be able to address that. So that's what I enjoy the most.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So I have taken over coaching that beginning runner group that you and I set up a couple of years back. That was like one of my favorite things on the planet. Those runners are like, to me, like one of the most inspiring groups because they're committed to doing this really, really hard thing. Running their first 5K.
Right.
So knowing that it's really hard, how do you, well, and I guess considering the current situation, it's like even harder. How do you keep your athletes motivated? You must be like in a situation where you're coaching people, but there's no races to train for, there's no groups to run with. How do you keep them engaged and like interested in running?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm really happy to see that program is still doing well. It was the year I spent with you guys was one of the best coaching years of my life. I really enjoyed that program. I enjoyed like the Roadrunner programs that we put together. I still remember like the meeting we had on Wickenden Street, Eric, where we sat in that shop and wrote the plan for the run club.
Right.
So I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see that engagement.
Yeah.
It's hard to do something like that on your own. So you really need to have some sort of support system.
Yeah.
And for them, the program is their support system. For my athletes, the team is a support system.
Yeah.
And so that's absolutely essential, especially in times like this,
Right.
and staying motivated, because I don't believe one coach alone can do it. And I don't believe like one friend can do it. I don't believe one person can do it. You need to be able to set around you a support system that can encourage you.
Mm-hmm.
I also found this season that we've been able to take our time with things. And
Right.
so part of the motivation has been knowing that the athletes are going to be better prepared when things finally do come back online, because they have all this time to work on little things.
Yeah.
And so that I've been motivating them to think that way. Like let's really drill down on what you can work on right now,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like you have a race. And Eric, when you pick a race date, that race date's not going to change, right? That is
You gotta be ready to rock on that day.
whether you're doing well in your training or not, it's coming, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you may have to make adjustments, or make decisions you don't want to do. But when there's nothing online, you can take your time. And so I found that that's been a motivating thing. We've also been able to, when things started to get shut down, I had to make a decision like pretty quickly about how else to keep them motivated. And I had to really think hard about that. And so what we decided was we were going to create as close to season as possible. And that part of that was creating the race series. So we created our own race series so that we can keep the motivation going.
Right. Yeah. That thing has been fun, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I'll put fun in air quotes, because I did the virtual 5K, and it was rough for me. I'm not gonna lie, it was rough. But I'm glad I had the thing to do, though. So like, it was cool to have that opportunity. You set like a date, or a weekend rather. You pick a day to do it, and you got to do it.
Right. And I got to tell you, Eric, I love this idea of being able to pick a day within a range of days. I feel like if there's a way that actual races, physical races, and race directors could figure out how to give that option to people. I know logistically it's tough because permits and like having people on the course, having people race marshals and people doing detail. I know it's tough to schedule like a weekend of racing, but if there's a way that we could pick a day based on the weather, and we'd get even better times, and people would have even more fun.
What I like to do is you can pick where you can run that straight 3 miles down a hill, man, if you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
I should have done that. In hindsight, I should have done that. But
and then had Christine pick you up at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly, right. Exactly. Now, so knowing that this like running thing is really hard and difficult to do, what are some of the things that we can do as runners to make it easier? I think about like all the little things that I should be doing that I, maybe haven't been. I think of now as being a time where I can actually implement those things. There's more time, like you were saying, to train. There's not really a set date that you have to do your race, so you've got a long time horizon. So what are some of the little things that we can incorporate to make our running easier?
Well, a good one is to just start a schedule for yourself, and just make like a weekly schedule, and make sure that you're doing the same things on the same days. So if it's like a 3 miler, which I know you're pretty familiar with those 5Ks, like daily 5Ks, put that on the schedule. So even if you don't have a coach, you have something to hold you accountable. And then put that on your fridge, put that on your wall, right? So you can look at it. Another thing is to try to add some variety to it to keep it fun, right? Because it'll give you something different to look forward to each day. So you did your 5K yesterday. Well, maybe today's strength day, or maybe today's like plyometrics, or maybe you're doing yoga today, right?
Right.
And then you're next to your next you've reached your next race running day without even knowing that the time has passed. And so it's good to have a calendar. It's good to have a structure for yourself. When you don't have it, I find that people give themselves reasons not to do things, right? Or like excuses not to do things. Like, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. What's the diff? There's no race happening.
Yeah,
like,
I know all about that, Coach.
I don't need it today. I can just do it tomorrow. No one's checking, right? But if you have it written down, and then the other thing that might be good is to just tell someone, like, hey, this week I want to run X number of miles, or this week I want to make sure I get a 5-miler in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And because you've kind of spoken it, then you're more likely to follow.
You know what happened to me the other day? This dude, Matt, I don't know if he's still watching. Thank you, Matt. But he sends me a message. He's like, you know what, Eric? Saturday seems like a real good day for a half marathon. And I'm like, what? But then all of a sudden I was like, I'm doing it. Let's go. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. He like held me, got me motivated, got me pumped up and ready to rock.
And all he had to say was, I think we should do it, right?
Yeah. And then I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Sometimes it just takes a little spark. Someone just let fire under your butt. And then so talking to people about it, or sharing what you want to do, or maybe just like being open to what other people are doing, that can get you going. But it's really important to have a structure. And then the other thing is to understand that you're not going to all the work you're putting in right now is going to matter. Like, even if you don't have a race to validate the fitness that you're developing, it's going to matter at some point.
Yeah.
You don't want those people that's not doing something, because there are people who are doing something. And when we get back to racing, we'll find out who's been doing it and who hasn't.
Yes. What do they say? The bigger the base, the taller the pyramid. Is that the slogan or the saying? With that in mind, what's your philosophy on base, like building that base? What's your like mileage philosophy? Are you one of these coaches who piles on the mileage early? For me, I was like super grateful in high school and college to have coaches who were more like quality over quantity. So I found myself not like burnt out after I got out of high school, so I could continue running in college. And then even after college, it wasn't like I was running 120 miles a week or 130 miles a week. I can still like progress and get better. So what's your philosophy on that whole thing?
I tend to lean towards quality myself too, Eric. I tend to lean towards quality because this is sort of a lifetime commitment, right? And so we're not in a rush to get anywhere. We want to continue to run for as long as we can. Like part of the slogan for my business is run better, run smarter, run for life. Right?
I like that.
Start to accumulate the mileage early, then it may not be possible to sustain that. But if you focus on the quality, then you can continue to add on, and you continue to have that sense of accomplishment and satisfaction, knowing that you're still improving. The guys who are like mileage monsters in college and can't go back to running 110, 120 miles a week, and for them it's like, I'll never get there again.
Peaked. They're done.
Yeah, so they're done, right? And that can derail everything if you don't have confidence or the belief that you can do it. So I tend to be a quality first, but I do focus on time. Like I'm one of those coaches that really focuses on time on your feet.
Okay. So time versus like miles.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Uh,
Why is
big
that?
because your body only knows how much time you've been running.
That's a
Your
good
body
point.
doesn't care how many miles you've run. Uh,
Wow.
I think that's like a construct that we came up with, mileage,
Yeah.
just to sort of compare ourselves to other people. Um,
Yes.
no one says, "Oh, I did 300 minutes today." How many minutes did you do? Right? I did
That would
350.
sound, that would sound so much cooler though.
Would sound. Why don't we do that, Eric? Why don't we talk about the amount of time that we spent on our feet?
I said it,
And
I ran 32 minutes today. It was great.
yeah, exactly. Your body knows time. And so if you go out and run for 30 minutes and you run at 7 minute pace, that's a little over 4 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go back again tomorrow and you run 30 minutes and you run 8 minute pace,
Yeah.
or let's say 9 minute pace. That's like just over 3 miles.
Right.
But you ran 30 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
so someone might look at the 4 miles and say, oh, you're doing it. That person did more training than the other person because they ran more miles, but that's not necessarily the
Yeah.
case. They
They
ran
did a different training, I think.
with a different kind of training.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I focus on time. And so for a lot of the folks on the team, they are very used to that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is running for time and then for the higher mileage folks, the time usually translates to pretty high mileage. I mean, I'm able to get one of my athletes to run 80, 82 miles a week just planning runs on time because I sort of understand his pace. I understand his tendencies for different runs. Like if I say an easy run, I know what pace that's going to be. If I say recovery run, I know what pace that. So I plan out I estimate the mileage
Mm-hmm.
so that he can get to a specific mileage per week.
Yeah.
But it's based on time.
Cool. That's a good way to do it. I think I should probably start doing that, man. I get a little too caught up in the like how fast, like even my like stupid like 3 mile run in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm like running like 6:10 pace for no reason other than just to be done quicker. I think. But like if I just said I'm going to run for 20 minutes, it doesn't matter how fast I run.
You'll notice you won't be running as fast,
Yeah,
and
I might feel better.
you'll enjoy it more.
I might enjoy it. How about
Yeah.
that? You know?
How about that?
Yeah, actually enjoying this. That'd be a good idea.
It's all about enjoying it.
So real quick, going back to like the virtual race series you set up.
Yep.
Well, I guess I can ask you. We did like a 5K. We did a 10K.
Yep.
I assume. I think I saw there's a half marathon coming up.
Yeah, there is one coming up it's going to be at the end of the month. So about 2.5 weeks from now, we'll have another 3-day segment where people can choose one of the 3 days to run a half marathon. And we realize that there are other events happening around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to give people the opportunity to combine races. So they can do like the Bristol half and combine that with our half.
That's
and
cool.
Just do one half instead of two.
Cool.
We're not gonna,
yeah, that's a good idea. That's fun.
Yeah. So we are doing that. And on that same weekend, we're also going to announce a scholarship fund, Eric.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're going to give people an opportunity to donate if they want. They don't have to, but when they sign up for our half, they can donate towards scholarship fund for a high school senior.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool,
So,
man. I'm going to have to donate. You put me on the spot here.
I did.
No, that's cool. So for folks doing, say, their first virtual race, whether it's a 5K or a 10K or a half, do you have any tips to keep them, like, I guess, mentally strong throughout that whole thing? Because I found myself, running by yourself, trying to push yourself, grind it out, can be really, really difficult mentally. You might be physically ready to go, but you get done with mile one and mile two's coming on you, and you're like, I got another mile after this. I'm feeling pretty crummy. So how do I keep myself like going for the rest of the race?
It's I guess we're all getting mentally tougher right now, aren't we?
We are, man.
Yeah, we're all having to do that. Everyone's learning how to get mentally tough on his or her own. But it's, um, you know, it's a good question, Eric, because everyone deals with it differently. I like for the 5K, I noticed that a lot of people are going to. I realized people are going to be doing on their own,
Mm-hmm.
and so I decided to give them a little tip, and I said, look, 5K is really, the running doesn't start until mile 2. You know this really well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the mile, it doesn't matter. And if you think it matters, you're probably not doing it right.
Right.
So like the racing starts at mile 2, so it's really just like a 2-mile race, right? It's a 2-mile.
Hey, that could do a 2-mile race.
The 200 kick. If it's a 10K, then you want to approach it a little more conservatively, and so instead of going out hard, you want to sort of work into it, and that avoids you keep yourself from burning out too soon and then wanting to quit, because there's no one cheering you on, there's no one following you in a car, there's no one, like you're out there by yourself, and so it's best to just approach it gradually.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that you finish strong for all these virtual races. That would be my recommendation: is approach it gradually and make sure that you're finishing stronger than when you started, and you'll feel better about yourself for doing it. But it's tough. It's tough to. It's like a time trial on your own, and I recognize, that it's not. I'm not asking people to do something easy, which is why I got out there last weekend and I did the 10K, even though I haven't been training. I was one of those folks who said, "Oh yeah, I haven't really been training, but I just decided to do it."
Yeah, from 6 miles, whatever.
6 miles, whatever. I never thought I'd be one of those people, and then I was one of those people. So it wasn't fun, but I wanted to show that I walk the walk, and I understand that it's not easy. And so when I was out there, I was thinking, okay, you got through mile 1, kind of kept it nice and comfortable. Now let's see if we can make it a little less comfortable, just a little less for mile 2, and then mile 3, just a little less, right?
Yeah.
And then before you're halfway through and you've got 3 miles to go, and you're like, all right, as long as I just work on these gradual improvements, I'll finish strong.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion.
Cool. So kind of make it like a progression run, basically. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So now I'm going to get into a couple of questions that I got from like a couple of followers. I think you know all these folks. So your boy Schrade's Runner 21 sent a little note in and asked, what are some of the ways that athletes inadvertently limit or undo the impact their coach has their training on their training?
There are quite a few things you can do. There are quite a few. Well, like nutrition is one of them.
Yep.
So nutrition can be a roadblock for you if you're not doing it right, and that could be like an invisible roadblock because you don't really see it, and you can, if the nutrition isn't dialed in, it might feel like you're not in shape. It might feel like you're not getting better. Right. And so the nutrition has to be well thought out, and if you don't have a coach that understands that, or you don't have a resource for improving your nutrition, you don't have the right recipes, then I would say you need to seek them out. You need to seek out a nutritionist or seek out a recipe source of recipes. Like we use Shalane Flanagan's book on our team.
Yep.
So Run Fast, Eat Slow. We've used that a lot, and because we understand the nutrition has to be there. And when I say nutrition, it's more than just the food. It's also like the what you're using for training. So it's your hydration, right?
Yeah.
Because that has nutrition in it. And then the other thing that people can do that can really derail their training is not getting enough sleep.
Oh
And
yes.
sleeping is where a lot of the recovery happens. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you're not giving yourself enough time to sleep, again, you're not recovering enough. And again, it's another one of those things that you don't see the effects until a week or two later. You
Right.
know,
Right.
yeah,
I always say recover just as hard as you train, man. I think I heard that from
yeah.
you actually. I probably heard
But
that from you.
great advice. Recover just as hard because it is recovery.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for Eric to sort of dismiss sleep
Right.
because
You're not doing
it's like
anything, man. You're just laying there.
laying there and it seems a little wussy, you know.
Yeah.
Why are you sleeping when other people are doing stuff?
Exactly.
But man, especially now, there's a ton of information, like scientific based information, that's just talking about this very topic
Mm-hmm.
of sleep, importance of sleep. So just do your research and find out what's really real about that.
Right.
And
Um.
then the other thing would be um, to underestimate the weather.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of those things that can derail your training. So,
Yeah.
and someone just asked in general, any tips for hot weather? Yeah. So we're kind of talking about this right now.
Yeah.
The idea that the summer training isn't going to be when you run your best times, but when you do your best training, meaning when you hit your best times. But it's going to matter because part of what happens in the summer is you acclimate to the heat, and that helps you improve the way your body regulates temperature, and that can be beneficial no matter what the weather is. And so
Right.
part of what we're doing right now is teaching your body how to cool itself better,
Mm-hmm.
how to activate better, how to thermoregulate better. So there are benefits to this type of these seasons, warmer seasons. But
Right.
we have to, I think we always have to be understand that we shouldn't underestimate the weather.
Mm-hmm.
uh, you should adjust to it.
Right. I think if you can train throughout the summer and, like you said, acclimate to that heat, when those seasons change and you get to fall, you're going to be like all set.
Yeah,
You're ready to rock.
right. Body's
Um,
going to know how to cool itself. Yeah.
yeah. Any thoughts on? Jay Runner has a question here. Any thoughts on hydration when you like don't want to carry water? Um, and then he mentioned, is there a gel that you can recommend that you can take without water? But basically, like, how do you hydrate um, if you can't carry water with you?
Yes, Jay Runner. Time of feet is more important than pace per mile. Absolutely, I agree with that. Well, the gels, we use Martin, we use Huma gels, and those are like our go-tos.
Yeah,
Uh, but we like Tailwind.
that's
We
good
like using,
stuff.
yeah,
It's kind of like a
um,
double whammy, right? Because you get a little
right,
bit of carbs, but you're also hydrating.
exactly. And it's been amazing how well it's worked for everyone. So it's not a specific type of athlete that does well with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's anyone who's on it because it has the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it has the electrolytes, and you can take it all day. So it's not like a specific formula that you have to put together, like 2 parts to one or 3 parts to one.
Yeah.
You can mix it in different. You can mix it in different parts,
Mm-hmm.
or different um,
Like ratios, you thinking?
different
Yeah.
ratios.
Cool.
It'll still work for you. So
Awesome.
so that if you haven't tried Tailwind, I would say try it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to not carry something if you don't have a place to put it. So if you're planning your routes, maybe the best thing to do is to plan loops that come back to like where your car is. You can hydrate that way,
Yep.
or just kind of stash something somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But yeah.
Yeah, I've had folks who will just like drive, say they're doing a long run, they'll drive the course maybe before they start and just put like a bottle of Tailwind under a bush somewhere at mile 8 and then grab it when they get there.
Hope it's still there
Yeah,
when they
fingers
come back.
crossed, fingers crossed the thing's still there.
That's
Unless I'm
yeah.
doing the same route, then I'm having a drink of your drink. I'm sorry, I'm thirsty.
Right.
You know?
If it's labeled and it says Tailwind, I'm drinking it.
Exactly. I'm sorry, but it's happening. And then Jay Runner has a couple more questions here, and I think this might be like a good place to kind of wrap up since you are a coach, and apparently I have 1 minute and 55 seconds remaining. So, how do you create a realistic running schedule when people are working 40 hours a week? And keep in mind you have 1 minute and 43 seconds.
Okay. Wow. No pressure. So start with the days of the times of the day that you can run, and then figure out how much time. Again, going back to the concept of time, right? So it's not mileage, it's time. If you've got 30 minutes, don't worry about how much time, how many miles you're putting in, and then try to go a little bit longer on the weekends if you have that flexibility. But I would say focus on running for time, and make sure you're getting enough sleep, and you'll find that you're going to be able to put together a good plan.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks so much, Coach. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me like this.
This is fun. We should do this again.
We should, for sure. Maybe we can actually see each other in person at some point.
And are you going to be there on Monday? I'm coming up on.
All right. Yeah, I'll be up at the shop on Monday, so I will see you then.
I will see.
Cool. So thanks to everybody who tuned in. If we didn't get to your question, I sincerely apologize. But next time we do something like this, fire them away again, and we'll get to you.
Absolutely. And Jay, yes, answers yes. I do offer coaching opportunities.
He does, for sure. And yeah, thank you all. And
thank you.
I'll see you Monday, bud.
Okay, I'll see you there.
All right. Take care, man.
Take care.
Bye.